You never really know who you're dealing with in life. Sometimes the person you underestimate the most could be the one who holds all the power. This story is about arrogance, prejudice, and a shocking twist that left an entire crowd speechless. It all began on a warm Saturday afternoon, inside one of the most luxurious stores in the city. The place was buzzing with customers, people strolling through polished marble floors, admiring expensive handbags, designer suits, and sparkling jewelry displayed in glass cases. Everything screamed wealth, prestige, and exclusivity. Among the shoppers was a woman named Maya. She was calm, graceful, and dressed in a simple black dress. She didn't have flashy jewelry or designer shoes. She didn't walk around flaunting her wealth. Instead, she carried herself with quiet confidence. But despite her modest appearance, Maya was far from ordinary. She was, in fact, one of the richest women in the country, a self-made billionaire whose name most people didn't know because she preferred to keep a low profile. Maya owned multiple businesses, from tech companies to real estate, and most importantly, she owned this very store. But she enjoyed walking in like a regular customer, watching how her employees treated people. It was her secret way of keeping an eye on her investments. On this day, however, things would spiral out of control in a way nobody could have predicted. As Maya examined a handbag on display, a voice cut through the air. It was sharp, impatient, and dripping with irritation. "Hey, you there!" Maya turned her head. It was the store manager, Richard. He was tall, sharply dressed, and carried himself with the air of someone who thought he was above everyone else. Richard had worked at the store for years and believed he ran the place like his own kingdom. He judged people instantly by their clothes, their accent, and most of all, by their skin. He marched up to Maya, his expression filled with disdain. "Customers like you don't belong here. Put that bag down. It's worth more than you could ever afford." The surrounding shoppers froze. A few gasped, whispering under their breath. Maya raised an eyebrow, surprised by his tone, but remained calm. "Excuse me?" she said softly. Richard sneered. "Don't play games with me. This is a high-end boutique. We don't allow people to loiter around pretending they can buy something they clearly can't. So unless you're planning to steal, I suggest you leave right now." The crowd grew tense. Some people looked uncomfortable, others looked amused, waiting to see what would happen. Maya felt the stares of strangers pressing against her. But instead of leaving, she smiled politely. "I think you're making a mistake," she replied. Her calmness seemed to infuriate Richard even more. His voice grew louder, echoing across the store. "Don't talk back to me. I've dealt with people like you before, always wandering around, wasting time, making the store look bad. Now get out." Before Maya could respond, Richard did something unthinkable. He slapped her. The sharp crack of his hand against her face silenced the entire store. Gasps filled the air. One woman covered her mouth in horror. Another man pulled out his phone, already recording. Children clutched their parents' arms, sensing the tension. Maya staggered slightly, not from the force of the slap, but from the shock that someone would dare to lay a hand on her. She slowly straightened her posture, her eyes locked on Richard's. The silence was deafening. Richard smirked, clearly believing he had put her in her place. "Now, leave before I call security." But Maya didn't move. Instead, she calmly pulled out her phone. She dialed a number and put it on speaker. The call connected instantly. "Yes, ma'am?" came a professional voice on the other end. "Hi, James. Maya said evenly, her eyes never leaving Richard's. "I need you to come to the downtown boutique right away. There's a problem with one of my employees." The crowd exchanged confused glances. "James? Problem with one of her employees?" Richard frowned. "Your employee? Who do you think you are?" Maya gave him a long, measured look. "You'll find out soon enough." Minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up outside the store. A man in a tailored suit stepped out and walked in briskly. "Ms. Maya, I came as fast as I could," he said. Richard's jaw dropped. "Ms. Maya?" The man glanced at Maya's reddened cheek, then turned toward Richard with a glare that could cut through stone. "Who laid a hand on her?" Richard stammered, suddenly pale. She was causing trouble. I was just doing my job." The man ignored him and addressed the crowd instead. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to clarify something. This woman you see before you is not just a customer. She is Maya Johnson, the billionaire owner of this entire chain of stores." The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, shocked expressions everywhere. People who had been quietly judging now looked horrified at their own assumptions. Richard's face drained of color. "Titch, that's not possible," he muttered. Maya finally spoke, her voice calm yet powerful. "You judged me based on how I looked. You humiliated me in front of everyone. And worst of all, you thought you could lay your hands on me without consequence." She paused, her gaze piercing through him. "Well, Richard, here's the consequence." She turned to James. "Effective immediately, terminate his employment, and make sure his name is reported to every major retail chain in the city. A man like this should never be in charge of people again." The crowd gasped again, this time in satisfaction. Some even clapped. Richard fell to his knees, begging, "Please, I didn't know who you were. I'm sorry. I was just trying to protect the store." Maya's eyes softened just a little, but her tone remained firm. "That's the problem. You weren't protecting the store. You were feeding your own prejudice. If I had been anyone else, someone without wealth or power, your actions could have ruined their life. Think about that." Security escorted Richard out as the customers watched silently. Maya adjusted her dress, took a deep breath, and addressed the room. "Let this be a lesson to everyone. You never know who you're talking to. Treat people with respect, no matter how they look, where they come from, or what you assume about them. Because one day, the person you mistreat could be the very one who holds your future in their hands." The store erupted into applause. Maya, graceful as ever, gave a small nod before walking out. And as she stepped into her car, she whispered to herself, "Respect is priceless. But arrogance? That will cost you everything." So remember, the next time you feel like judging someone by appearances, think of this story. The person you look down on today could be the very person who owns the ground you're standing on. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us never to underestimate anyone. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a twist like this again.